Welcome to a Wiser Retirement podcast. Before we get started with the episode, I want to tell you about a new ebook available on our website called Buyer Beware. Why do they keep trying to sell you that annuity? This ebook covers the various types of annuities, negatives to owning annuities, and better investment alternatives to annuities. To download this ebook, you can click the link in the episode notes or go to wiserinvestor.com and you'll find it at the bottom of the page. Now on to today's episode.
Welcome to a Wiser Retirement Podcast, where we believe the best financial advice should always be conflict-free. I'm your host, Casey Smith. Guiding you to financial freedom today is my co-host, Brad Lyons. Hey, Brad.
Hi, Casey.
So, we have a relatively new download out right now on our website. Why do they keep trying to sell you that annuity? Actually, this is based off a blog, obviously much longer. That's actually the most viewed blog on our website right now. It has been that way for months now. And it's just in times of fear, which what was that, episode 154? I think we did on fear and investing. People gravitate to something that seems secure. And that's not the case with annuities. It's not as secure as you think. There's a lot of it's a false sense of security. When you go on your social media and you see advertisements for things that say, lock in your income, guaranteed income, or secure your future, invest differently for different times. These are all buzzwords that are codes for, or come to our free dinner. And it's like at, a fancy steak restaurant, right? These are all tactics that people use. Fear sells and moves people, right? If I said, I have 5 ways never to lose your money, right?
Right. Well, that's what they're saying on these ads. And it's always ...
right.
afterwards.
So ultimately, you don't want to be purchasing annuities. I've never seen where the math works. Now, there are annuities that are kind of like somewhat like CDs, I guess. They're fixed annuities where you're going to invest in the annuity and then it's going to pay you X amount for your life. And then when you die, they keep the rest.
Well, I think
that's okay.
If we went out and queried 100 people out on the street and we asked them, what is an annuity to you? That's what they would explain right there. I put money into an insurance company and an insurance contract, and they pay me out money for the rest of my life. I think everybody gets that, but 99 out of 100 insurance contracts that we see are not that.
I don't think I've ever seen one fixed annuity over the years.
And this goes to the point that insurance products on the whole are not bought.
That's correct.
They're sold.
They're sold. People
don't
know
very different.
People don't go sinking these things.
Right.
And unfortunately, they're sold at where? Mostly banks. The bank, the brokerage arm of the bank are the people who sell most of these things. And so you're walking into an environment where you feel safe and secure because it's your bank. Well, I don't know, maybe not as much anymore, but historically you've felt secure at your bank. And then you're talking to this person who says, well, I can do a little better than that CD rate. I can do this insurance product or this annuity product. But we break this down in our download. You can go to our website. There's also linked here in the show notes. You can go to our website and download this ebook on why we don't think that this is a good idea. But just be careful. I mean, I've mentioned it before in other podcasts. My phone's next to me right now as we're recording this, so we're getting I'm gonna get bombarded with these advertisements. But there's one advisor that's advertising heavily for annuities, and she doesn't even use the word annuity. But I actually followed through the entire process. I didn't talk to anybody, but I followed through the entire process, and she's using all types of scare tactics, leaning on her tax legal degree is why she's so smart, and has nothing to do with annuity sales. She's a tax attorney who probably didn't cut it and wanted to make more money, and so now she's selling these annuity contracts where she's getting 6 to 10% commission on each one being sold. That's ridiculous. That's what it is. We have to work for years at our firm to generate that type of revenue.
Yeah.
And there's that again, we could have a whole podcast on why you shouldn't buy annuities. Instead, we just wrote a little paper. It's out there on our website. So go download that. Today we're going to talk about how much can you spend in retirement? And so let's talk about the professional way of determining this, Brad, and then I'll talk about I'll start with the amateur way of looking at this. So when most people retire, they walk into they're tired of working, they can't work, their job is eliminated. I mean, there's many reasons as to why we get to that retirement point. But typically how they're going to go about their decision on how much income they can spend is they're probably going to sign up for Social Security right away. So if they're 63, 64, 65, they're just going to sign up because they're scared. They're not getting a paycheck anymore, right? They might have a pension, maybe teachers, nurses, right? Or a few people left with pensions, government workers. So they might start taking that pension right away. And then they've saved money into their nest egg somewhere along the way, right? And they'll probably tap into that maybe as they need it, but they're not really quite sure how much money they can pull out on a monthly basis. Or they did a spreadsheet and they're pulling out some arbitrary number based on probably unrealistic expectations of market performance going forward. And then they go through life, 10, 15 years down the road, they start feeling the pinch from inflation. And all of a sudden they're feeling really squeezed and uncomfortable. And they show up at our doorstep going, this is what we did. I don't know. This is right. And I'm not saying you can't retire if you haven't done it our way, but it's not as a fruitful of a retirement, right?
And it's not a retirement full of confidence.
Yeah.
Okay. And I think when clients use our services, I think number one feeling they have is confidence, So I think that's a huge mindset.
Well, it goes back to our whole theme for this whole reason for this whole podcast. Financial success is intentional.
Yes.
And it doesn't just happen. You have to be intentional about it. And that goes to the 20-year-olds who are listening, who are just starting to save, all the way up to the people who are stepping into retirement and beyond at that point, right? So here's the process that should be done in calculating this number. So you need to write down all of your income sources, potential income sources. So let's start with Social Security. You can take it now, you can take it next year or the year after, all the way up to age 70. If you're age 70, you need to be taking Social Security. There's no benefit to waiting past age 70. So on your chart of options, we have Social Security at different ages. Hopefully we have Roth IRA money or 401k money, right? Those roll into that account. We've done many podcasts about this, but keep it simple. Get all your 401ks in one place. Get all your IRAs in one place. Then you might have a pension, right? You might have part-time work in retirement. You might have just money sitting in a savings account. You could have quite a bit of cash. So ultimately, in trying to determine your number, what our software is going to do is optimize all that. It's going to say, you probably should wait till age 70 to take Social Security, but it's going to allow you to spend more of your own money initially. So you get a smooth transition, meaning if it's $10,000 a month, it's $10,000 a month plus inflation going forward. That's another thing you probably didn't do, is count for inflation withdrawals and when you did it yourself. So proper way to determine this is retiring now and determining your max income. Doesn't mean you have to live on this. Is taking the amount of money that you have invested, your cash. You want to eliminate probably 2 years worth of cash from the equation. So you want to have about 2 years of your living expenses in cash once you hit retirement. That way, when the market performs like 2022 hopefully not 23, you have a buffer. So you go into that cash instead of having to withdraw from your portfolio, right? Then you're going to determine, the software will determine the maximum amount of money you can have by pulling optimally from all these different sources. And what we're looking for, because we're going to run 1,000 different probabilities of success, right? So out of 1,000 different stock and bond market variables, you're going to want to be something around 82 to 85% probability of not running out of money. It's called a Monte Carlo simulation. There's starting to be some on free online tools that will offer this. Really not an all-in-one package like we use with Money Guide Pro. But ultimately, you want to build out the probability of not running out of money before age 95. So in that probability, in that math, this is something we do with every client every time they come in for their quarterly, 6-month, or annual review, is making sure that we're still in this green zone. So in that probability of success, again, is looking at all the possible ways to take Social Security, is calculating when you might die. Now, I assume 95. If someone knows exactly when they're going to die, I can get really exact on how much money you can spend, right?
We can maximize our income then, can't we?
That's right. So ultimately, you want to, the reason why it's not 100% is because if you have, look at these, it's a spaghetti chart. If you look at the spaghetti chart, there's 1,000 different ways. So some of those ways, you're going to be multi-millionaires, maybe billionaires, right? Because every year you're going to have like this 40, 50% rate of return.
Right.
That's not probable. It's also equally not probable that you're going to lose all your money in 3 years, not because you spent it, but because the market took it away. So that's why we want that 85% probability. Some firms will go down to 50%, which I think is crazy. And they'll just tell you in years like last year, you have to cut back your spending. So I don't have to ever tell a client that we have to cut back their spending. So I like that 82 to 85% range. So when it's calculating that, it's also calculating when the optimal time to take Social Security is. And so that optimal time to take Social Security typically is going to be age 70, unless you have it's like some medical conditions or something that has caused our advisors to move your optimal age from 95 down to 90, or maybe even 85 if it were in a bad scenario. So, I mean, and we've done planning for people actually recently that we're told they had a terminal condition, and we were like planning with someone who probably wouldn't be here in 3 months. And in the process of treatment, oh yeah, I'm going to keep working. They said I could go probably another 10, 15 years. So you just never know. So as planners, we're always assuming the best case scenario. You're living, right?
Right.
And we don't want you to run out of money while you're living. That's never a good sign. You're probably not going to come back and complain if you died and you had too much money left over, but you'll definitely be here complaining if you died and
you didn't die,
you ran out of money. Exactly. Not because you spent it, just because, you did the normal stuff. Right. So ultimately that, there is a DIY version of this, and that is, you're going to delay Social Security. You can pull down a little more for the years you're not taking Social Security, but typically it's about that 4% drawdown rate. And there's been articles about the 4% rule doesn't work anymore. It's kind of like the 60-40 portfolio. It is not going to work, and then it does, and then it's not going to work, but then it does. So ultimately on the 4% rule, you would add up all your IRAs, your brokerage accounts, and you could pull down 4% per year and be able to live on that and not run out of money, right? And that will take into account inflation, because your portfolio will outgrow what you need for inflation over time.
That's right. And that's assuming that your portfolio is properly constructed to earn that 4% plus inflation year after year after year on average over to age 95. Right?
Correct.
Right.
But I think the hard part that DIY people have is, what do you do prior to taking Social Security? That's why people take that Social Security so early, because then they don't know how much to draw down. And what really the software is doing is giving you that maximum amount and then adjusting it, reverse engineering it, right?
Yes.
So it starts off with $100,000 a year, but then next year it's going to be 2.25% more, and compounded every single year going forward. And it's just really hard to do that kind of math at home.
It is.
without specialized software.
Yes.
So ultimately, you know, I wish it was easy to say, use this formula to determine, but we don't even have a formula that we're using necessarily, other than we're focused on that probability of success. And I think it's worth people going through that process to understand that. Even people who are 10, 15 years from retirement are going through that process already, knowing that, man, okay, if I put $5 more in a month, this is how it affects me long term. Or, that didn't affect me as much as I thought. I'd rather just get the house paid off by the time I retire, because that's real cash flow that's no longer going out, right? Because ultimately, retirement is a cash flow situation. It's not a rate of return. That's important, but it's all about cash flow, which is why we typically have our clients debt free by the time they hit retirement. For business owners, calculating can be difficult because you're trying to determine if you're going to sell your business or transition your business. What does that income look like? And that's something that you have to start working on years before you get there, not something that you just decide on a whim.
Right.
You got to be able to show typically 3 good years of solid performance to get the max dollars out of your business. So you need to be working with a business consultant to make sure that you're hitting those numbers. So when you hit your sale year, that you can go with your best foot forward, right? But ultimately, I think the goal is obviously not to run out of money, but also be confident in the amount that you're getting is not going to go away. And I think that's what our financial planning process does for people, is it allows them to go through that process to have the confidence that they're not going to run out of funds. Now, there is a point at which you have so much money that it doesn't matter anymore, right? I had a consultation recently with one of our larger clients, and that conversation had nothing to do with income. We already know we're optimizing our income, have been for years, but she's not happy. She's not dissatisfied with our firm. She's just not a happy individual. And so I chose to take that time to focus on legacy planning. Say, what are you going to be known for? What's important to you? What kind of legacy do you want to leave behind, right? And we determined that she wanted to travel, but she wasn't traveling because she wasn't sure she had enough money, right? And I was able to show her, take X amount of dollars and you can go travel. And her son's sitting right there with me in the conversation. And I said, you have a grandchild. She's 12 years old. Surely she would like to go to the beach. You don't have to go by yourself. So a lot of times the planning process will kind of evolve into that, going, okay, let's solve a problem. We've had other people that weren't traveling because of COVID, and hopefully they're doing some traveling now. But ultimately, the planning process gives confidence to your retirement. When you're confident, I think you can live a much more fruitful retirement.
Well, what you're explaining is that literally people still have goals and objectives that are personal and professional at that point. And we're here to help. And part of the process and planning is that how do we finance these goals and objectives that people have? And it should be part of the plan, not exclusive of the plan. It's not over here. It's not a side plan. It's part of the plan. It's an expenditure. In retirement, there's the things that you want to do. And we're here to help provide that plan, and the process we go through it, to get there gives you a very high level of confidence that you can do that and continue on with the rest of your life and meet all your needs and objectives.
When you're living in uncertain times, like a lot of us feel like we are right now, it's important that you think of things in a almost like buckets. We don't have an official bucket system here. We don't advertise it that way, but it's kind of how we handle it. Is we have that 2 to 3 years of expenses in cash or something very cash-like.
Right.
Then the next bucket is the money you probably won't need for the next 10 years. Typically, that's or your 3 to 10 year bucket. That's typically ends up being like your bond portfolio, which has about a 4 to 5 year maturity range, right? And then your third bucket is your stocks. And this is what gives you probably the most anxiety, except for 2022 when bonds threw a fit. But stocks, that's what you see in the news. That's probably drives your feelings, emotions about investing. So when we talk about that bucket you'll probably never touch. You'll probably never touch the stock side of your portfolio. Maybe a long-term care event, something along those lines. But that stock portfolio, the gains are being harvested. They're being pushed back into cash. The dividends are coming into cash, which you're spending during retirement. It doesn't mean that it won't go negative because, price moves up and down every single day. But over your lifetime, you're probably not touching the stock bucket at all. So really, we have to hone in on when we think about emotions and investing and how we feel about our money. You want to eliminate those things from your thoughts. That stock is going to be very, very long-term focused, and then the income is what you're really living on in the now, right? And that's what's inside your cash bucket. So ultimately, how much income can you derive in retirement depends on your Social Security strategy. Typically, waiting will actually increase your overall income long-term. It depends on, obviously, your pension. Every family is different. I mean, we have families that have military pension, airline pension, and they were great savers, and they're on great track, right? Then we have people who were small business owners. Businesses did okay, but that everything they have is inside from that business sale. Then we have people who worked W-2 jobs their entire lives, and they just saved money. And so they have Social Security, and I should say the small business owners don't have a whole lot of Social Security because they didn't pay in the whole time. But W-2 workers did pay in, and then they have their lifetime savings. And so in that scenario, it's the same formula, right? You're just getting income from different places. And so ultimately that's going to be how we're going to determine income is 4%. Our software will allow you to go 8, 9, 7% withdrawal rate to smooth it out to something under 4% for your lifetime on average. DIYers at home are going to be probably feeling like they're really pinching things because they're not comfortable watching that balance fall while they're waiting on Social Security, which in the end hurts them. Kind of shoots themselves in the foot because they're not getting the max income that they can from their portfolio. Ultimately, though, bringing it back full circle, none of this has to do with annuities. None of this has to do with, quote, guaranteed income. Essentially, we're doing with your money what annuity companies doing with your money for a fraction of the cost of buying an annuity and being stuck in it for 14 years and not even participating in the upside of the market. 2022 was a terrible year, but the last decade's been great for investing. You missed it all if you're inside of an annuity. So it's ultimately what we want to be able to do is show people that there is a path. It doesn't have to be emotional. We can show you that through proper cash management, through proper portfolio management, low cost, long-term focused index funds, that you can live a very prosperous life without having to buy big, expensive products. They give you a false sense of security. That's why we have the download that's on the website. That's why I think that blog is the most viewed blog. We're talking thousands of views on this thing because people are searching going, man, it sounds like a great pitch, but just something's not quite right.
Yeah, it's tempting, but then they remember having seen that blog or something on our website.
Right.
They're go checking, right?
That's right.
Yeah,
that's right.
That's exactly what's happening.
Yeah. We have a very sweet client who came to us many, many years ago. It was back when I was doing airline pilot retirement workshops. And the pilot said, I want my mom to talk to you because I don't remember what you said about annuities, but I remember there was a big red slide. And that's what I did on the we had 2 hours of like Dave Ramsey type stuff and just like, guys, don't be stupid with your money. And we talked about product sales and stay away from your banker brokerage company, trying to sell annuities. And I built this red slide that just said, pilots in red don't go together. Right. Ultimately, guys, do the download, give us a call. We'll be happy to help you with financial planning. This was not supposed to be an infomercial. It kind of came out that way. That's partially because there's a lot of financial planning firms out there that don't do, well, I should say there are a lot of good financial planning firms that focus on planning first, but they're very hard to find. They don't have the big budgets that the big guys have. And most advisors are trying to sell product. They're trying, they make their money by you doing a transaction with them. And that's not how our industry really should be working anymore. We should have evolved now to where we give unbiased advice, but only 4% of firms actually do that. There's only 4% of firms are actually fee-only firms. Most of them are fee-based, which means that they act as fiduciaries at the beginning of the conversation, and by the end of the conversation, they're no longer fiduciaries, and now they operate under the suitability rules of selling you a product. And that's very confusing to me. TD Ameritrade used to advocate against that business model, even though majority of their advisors on the platform were probably fee-based advisors. Fee-only advisors, we don't sell anything. We're giving advice. We do charge asset management fees. That's kind of how the world works in our world. But I always tell our clients that about 75% of that is planning, and about 25% of that fee is your job, Brad, portfolio management, right?
That's right. So we allocate our hours serving our clients.
Exactly. All right, Brad, thanks.
Very good. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to a Wiser Retirement podcast. We hope you enjoyed today's episode. Make sure to subscribe wherever you're listening. That way you don't miss any new episodes. We'd also appreciate if you could leave a rating and review. If you have any questions about anything that was discussed today, head to wiserinvestor.com and reach out. This episode was produced and edited by Ken Hoadley.